beginning, before there was NewJeans, before there was Adore, and before there was Hype, there was Min Hee Jin. And none of us liked her back then either. Hi guys, Han here. If this isn't your first time with me, then welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. If it is, hi, I'm Han. My pronouns are they, them. I'm a K-pop fan of almost 20 years and I have lived here in South Korea and worked in the K-pop industry as a marketing expert. I was watching a concert yesterday, so if my voice is a bit weird, I'm sorry. Recently on my channel, we have been covering the ongoing saga that is the NewJeans case, affectionately nicknamed Adorgate on this channel. However, throughout my coverage of the NewJeans situation, one of the constant questions that a lot of you guys have asked, and I will finally be answering today, is why did K-pop fans, long-term OG K-pop fans like myself, hate Min Hee Jin long before the NewJeans saga ever began? Why were we weary when it was first announced that she would be hired at Hype? Well, today we will be doing a deep dive into her history during her time at SM and going through the various scandals and situations that happened while she was there that made the public firstly aware of her and secondly dislike her. I will preface this video by saying you will be very uncomfortable. I will also put some trigger warnings. We will be discussing ad nauseum infantilization of idols, the over-sexualization of young people, and pause for the algorithm, pedophilia. And yes, I will be self-centering like that throughout the whole video because I gotta get it back. Just be forewarned. But yeah, if any of those topics make you uncomfortable, you can skip the video. You already know all you need to know, really. But just bear that in mind. It will be more implied than explicit, but just know that these are the themes that we'll be discussing today. With that said, let's jump into the horrible history of the notorious Min Hee Jin. So Min Hee Jin joined SM back in 2002 as a graphic designer, although through her retelling of her career story, she says that she was never satisfied with simply taking orders and creating what she was told. She wanted to have more influence, i.e. power, and she got that by essentially doing the job of the person directly above her, basically making the person above her redundant to the point where she could take their place. Because why would I go to the head of design and then they go to Min Hee Jin when I can just go to Min Hee Jin directly and she's going to get it done, right? And whether you liked her or not, apparently her work was good, you know? So there was a reason why she was always promoted to the next level. And that led her to a point where she ended up being the creative director for some of SM's biggest second, third, and early fourth gen groups, such as Girls' Generation, FX, SHINee, EXO, Red Velvet, and NCT. Now, Min Hee Jin said in her Hyundai Card talk last year at the end of 2024 that she has never had an interest in music. She has always been more interested in TV, and it just so happened that she ended up working at a music company when she started her career in SM. And I think this is important because throughout this video, we're going to talk about the fact that Min Hee Jin uses a lot of influence from very questionable video media, i.e. movies and dramas, particularly movies. And this is also very evident from her Instagram account where she has photos of some of these movies around her home. And already jumping into a little bit of the scandalous nature of Min Hee Jin's character, there are already questions from the general media, not just K-pop fans, but the news media, asking why does she feel so comfortable sharing images from these very questionable movies, because these movies feature a lot of sexualization of young people or putting young people in situations that are not appropriate for their age, such as exposure to drugs, sex work, and other such things. One of the very famous examples of things you could see on her Instagram are photos referencing the 1974 film Le Faro da Padre, which centers around an adult-child sexual relationship. And as I said, you could see a lot of reference to those kind of movies in a lot of her work. For the sake of this video, and honestly partially in order to keep this video as short as possible because I don't feel comfortable talking about this, but I want to inform you guys, everything that Min Hee Jin is accused of can be summarized in basically 2 or 3 main points. It's her constant desire to infantilize grown adults or older teens and make them look as young as possible, often editing out things that make them look mature and trying to highlight their innocence. But at the same time, then with those innocent concepts, putting them in very suggestive, typically sexual situations that are not appropriate for the age of the age she is trying to make them look. For example, if she's making them look 10, 11, 12, and then putting them in sexual situations, that's not appropriate, regardless of what the actual age of the idol is. And she typically achieves this through images, editing, styling, and sometimes video content as well, because as a creative director, she has her fingers in a lot of pots. She does photo shoots for concepts or magazines, she does music videos, and of course she has an influence on what the final lyrics are for songs. So we're going to be talking about examples of all of those things throughout this video. Now, the first one we're going to start with is probably one of the most notorious and honestly, in my opinion, one of the most blatant. And actually, I will say, I'm kind of happy people notice this because it's very easy for this kind of thing to be overlooked when it comes to male idols. So the first one we're talking about is the concept photos for SHINee's Sherlock back in 2012. And I think it's important to mention that at this point, the members are 19 to 24 years old. So all of them are legally adults. These are, mind you, the ages I will give will be their international age at the end of the year. So even if this happened in January, I'm just referencing their age in December at the end of the year. So just bear in mind, some of the members could be a year younger at the actual time of the photo shoot. It was too difficult to go like for the specific day. So bear that in mind. Okay, so what makes these pictures controversial? Well, you have all of the members pose shirtless. And this is not necessarily a bad thing. Like we said, they're all grown adults. They're all legal age at this point. So they're men, right? But what makes this uncomfortable is the fact that Min Hee Jin, mind you, she's the creative director of this shoot, has intentionally put effort into making the members look younger, and not only young but also innocent in promiscuous sexual situations. So looking at Minho, for example, I think his concept photos are like the easiest to notice what is wrong straight away. You have him with this very fluffy like cherub style hair, and he's laying down in this very like not overly sexual pose, but kind of like innocent. I'm just here lounging around, just happen to be half naked. But then he's also paired with a lot of imagery that makes him look very suggestive. We're going to use the word suggestive a lot today. So the first thing is the glass bottle, which depending on which photo you're looking at, sometimes it looks like it's full of a white cloudy liquid. And obviously the bottle itself is very phallic in shape. And in one of the main concept photos, he is like sucking the bottle while also maintaining this look of playful innocence, brattiness, if you will, if we want to go there, while sucking on this bottle. And it's like, who is this for? Because I'm thinking about like, if I am a SHINee fan at that age, let's say I'm actually like similar age to the SHINee members, if not slightly younger. If I see this photo, it's not appealing to me as a fan, you know? Like, why do I want my Oppa to look younger than me? Why do I want him to look like a child? And then also, why do I want him to be doing things that are sexually explicit more to men? And I mean, there's a whole line you could go down with like BL and the fetishization of gay people there, but that's a conversation for another. I know it is Pride Month, but let's focus on Min Hee Jin right for today. So yeah, those images are very uncomfortable and questionable. There's also one image where he's surrounded by Polaroids, and I know that if you look closely you can clearly see that they are pictures, but I can't personally help but feel that they look like rubber packets, if we're using American slang. I don't know, like maybe that's just me reaching, but for me personally, like that's the vibe that it gives, especially when you consider all the other photos around it, right? The next member is Taemin. Also, Taemin has a very like effeminate look to him. Like he's very androgynous, which is obviously going to appeal to a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons. But in Min Hee Jin's case, as we've mentioned, a lot of the media she watches features young people having inappropriate relationships with adults, especially young women. So her further like feminizing him with the long hair and stuff in this photo doesn't really strike me as surprising. And bearing in mind what a young girl's body looks like before they've developed a chest and things like this, is very in line with how Taemin looked at that time. There's also reports of her actually telling Taemin to stop working out in order to take these photos like this. She didn't want him to have muscle definition in these photos. And then again, if we look at the posing as well, what has, mind you, Sherlock, the song itself is what, like, it's this very catchy, like, I'm so curious, yeah. It's a vibe. What has that got to do with this, like, suggestive concept? She's got him leaning back over this chair, looking essentially effed out, if you ask me. And it's just like, why is this like super seductive? And again, seductive in a weird way. It's not seductive for the target audience. It's almost, dare I say it, like an older man's gaze. That's how I see it. Personally, that's how I see it. Like, if you were to put girls in these exact same positions, in these exact same poses, it would have the exact same like undertone. I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. I'm trying not to I'm trying not to get demonetized, and I'm also trying not to put myself in the mindset of someone who would make this, but I'm explaining what I'm seeing when I see these photos. Like, they look very uncomfortable to me. Similarly, we have actually on the note of not developing too much muscles, she actually edited out Chung Hyung's muscles because he was too muscular in this photo shoot. May he rest in peace. There are actually other photos from him shirtless. I think they're either further in this album, like not the main concept photos that go up on Twitter, but like inside the album, or they're just photo shoot that he did at the time. But I'll put them on screen so that you can see the comparison, how she's totally like blurred out his muscle definition to make him look younger and more boyish and more childlike. And then the last member we're going to talk about, I know I didn't talk about Onyu, but I haven't got much to say about him. The last member we're going to talk about is Key, which honestly for me personally was the most like, what is this? Like, it's grapey for me, honestly. So you have him like on this bed, like stretched out, shirtless, looking seductively, whilst also at the same time looking kind of innocent. And then you skip forward a couple of photos and you've got him now lying, looking almost violated, and then he's wearing these very like childlike accessories, which mind you he was not wearing in the other photo. So it's like, what is the message that we're trying to send here? Because again, as a young teenage girl, besides the fact that they're shirtless, these are not appealing to your ideal audience, right? So who is this supposed to be appealing for? And this is not the first time, mind you, that she's actually styled them in this very childish way. A lot of people also point to the Romeo photo shoot where she has them holding like child's toys, like a doll and things like that. And there's even a photo of Key squirting water into his own mouth. And I'm just like, in isolation, okay, maybe you could write off as like, it's just a fun summer thing. Like, who didn't do that as a kid? In fairness, right? Playing devil's advocate. But throughout this video, you're going to see a trend. You're going to see a series of habits, a series of events that show a consistent message. So take it with a pinch of salt. Each of these individual situations can arguably be explained a little bit. But when we see this pattern of behavior, and then we think about where we are now, I hope the picture will start to form for you guys the way that it formed for pretty much everybody else. Also, mind you, back in Romeo days, that was 2009, the members were 16 to 21. So at that time, they actually were younger, but they still weren't kids. Like, they weren't babies the way that she's making them out to be. And Min Hee Jin was the creative director behind that concept shoot as well. Before we move on to the next thing, one thing I'm also going to do throughout this video is that I want us to compare pictures from the same time period with the pictures that are directed by Min Hee Jin and the things that are not, just to see that this is not just a case of Asian people looking young. Like, let's actually address this now. Of course, we all know that, especially with idols, they're supposed to be like the most beautiful boys and girls, right? So a lot of Asian people, especially idols, look younger than their age. We are not talking about someone who just looks young and is of adult age and they're leaning into their sexuality, and just because of their face, like, I'm not implying that if you have a baby face you're not allowed to look sexy. That is not the argument here. The argument is when you are intentionally making someone, whether they're a teen or an adult, making them look younger, making them look childlike, and then putting them in promiscuous and suggestive and sexual situations. That is a completely different scenario. And mind you, these are things they're being directed to do. This is not their natural personalities. This is not their character concept, if you will. These are one-off photo shoots or video recordings for a concept of a album. And like, look at idols today as well. We see idols who do cute, sexy, handsome, romantic, like we see the range within everybody, right? So this is very clearly a conceptual choice, not the character of these idols. None of these examples are supposed to be criticisms of the idols who are mentioned. Let me just make that very clear. So I want to show you guys, bearing in mind the pictures we've just seen of SHINee, this is a photo from the same time period. This is the same comeback. Look how much more manly they look. They look their age. They look like men in their late teens and early 20s. They don't look like children. They don't look like boys who are barely 13, 14, 15. And that's the problem. There is a way that they could be styled to look their age, even if we were going for the same shirtless, like seductive concept. They could do that as men, not as children. Moving on to the next thing, which is the Pink Tape art film by FX. This was actually released the year prior, and at the time of this the members are 17 to 24 years old. And again, this is where Min Hee Jin is the director of this art film. She's leading the creative direction, and once again this is leaning in heavily on the infantilization and the sexualization of innocence. These girls are in their late teens / early 20s, 17 to 24 years old. Why are they dressed in children's clothes? Why are they jumping around like little girls in a room, acting like children? And then also the way that there are some scenes where they are zoomed in to specific parts of their bodies or actions that they're doing, and you cannot tell me this is not fetish. You cannot tell me. You have one where she's putting something into her mouth and basically fingering her own mouth. You have one where two of the girls are wearing pillowcases over their head and leaning in like they're about to make out with each other. The sexualization of lesbianism, that's not new. You have, again, close-ups of one of the members' feet for some reason. Like, I'm sorry, please, anybody who wants to defend this woman, I implore you, please come and explain to me what the point of those scenes were. Like, what message is supposed to be sent here? And again, this is what I'm saying about this is leaving into very heavily the older, creepy male gaze. Like, who is this for? Like, I can't see another audience who would be interested in this kind of imagery. It's very uncomfortable when you have young adults acting like children and then doing things that are irrelevant to their actual concept, that are just sexual, like explicitly sexual in nature. Also bearing in mind the time, this is 2011. And 2011 in Korea. This is not us where we have same-sex marriage is legalized in places and gender-affirming care is available in places. Not for much longer if things keep going the way they're going, but I digress. Like, this is hyper-conservative still to this day. When you go to Pride, there are the Jesus hates gays and homosexuality is a sin all over the place. And you've got these two young girls implying that they've been making out in a film for their album. For why? And it's not even like you're doing this as a like empowering move to show that, oh, queerness is okay, and yes, we support queer rights, and yes, for women love women. Like, no, there is no way you can argue this isn't fetish content. I'm sorry. Moving on. Similarly, in Red Velvet's Russian Roulette music video, again, Min Hee Jin is the creative director for this music video. A lot of people referred to this as Lolita-esque, and no, we're not talking about the very cute Japanese fashion subculture Lolita. We're talking about the book by, I think, the German guy about this little girl who is trying to seduce this grown-ass man. Like, that kind of Lolita-esque vibe to this whole music video. From the styling, you have the girls wearing these like vintage style lace dresses, having their hair in pigtails and acting like dolls. Again, age-wise, the members at this time are 17 to 25 years old. This is 2016. Why do you have the girls wearing kids' clothes, acting like dolls, and then lying in bed like lifeless, waiting to be what? used. Like, I don't feel comfortable explaining this. I hope you guys are getting what I'm trying to imply here, because I'm just like, why? Literally, why? Again, you could flip this. You could achieve this same thing by making the outfits, rather than making them childlike, make them like the sexually, like pin-up style outfits, right? But if we're talking about making it age appropriate, minus the younger members, but like if we're looking at like the higher end, the 25-year-old, right? Put her in a pin-up style dress. Rather than doing childish hairstyles, just do like a vintage, like 50s blowout, like something like that, like a glamorous sort of hairstyle. And then you can have her looking seductive and like, come hither. Like, you can do that and it's age appropriate. Why are you making them look like kids and then putting them in these promiscuous situations? That is the disconnect here. I'm not saying all sexy concepts are wrong, but children or childlike imagery should not be mixed with sexy concepts. Similarly, again with Red Velvet, the following year, 2017, in their rookie photo shoot, it's very much the same thing as well. There seems to be a little bit of an Alice in Wonderland kind of vibe to this, although Alice in Wonderland is about a child. And they're once again wearing these very childish, like milkmaid dresses and things like that. And there's a couple of photos where they are like sprawled out, laying down, again in these somewhat suggestive poses, when you're mixing it with this childish, innocent imagery. It's all just very ew. And again, if we look at other pictures from the same time period as these photo shoots, you can see that in some, they are dressed in these very childish, like elementary, I'm not going to call a basic school uniform or school sports uniform a childish outfit, because I know even now we still see like fucking 30-year-old idols wearing school uniforms. But in these cases, you have them trying to look that age at the same time as wearing those clothes. And then at the same time, you see them on stage where they're wearing, there's one where they're wearing like these tennis uniforms where they're wearing like red tops and white skirts, and it looks completely fine. Like, it's age appropriate. It's still a bit simplistic, but it looks like these are girls in their late teens, early 20s. It's appropriate for the time period as well. The fashion was different back then. But yeah, there's just too many photos where you have these girls looking doll-like, looking enticing. And mind you, this is not stuff they've done to just Red Velvet and FX as well. There's a photo shoot from NCT Dream that took place in 2019 where the members were 15 to 18 years old, and she literally has them dressed like 10-year-olds. Like, at a glance, you might be like, oh, this is just like a simple, like, innocent, Christmassy kind of concept. But like, actually, if you did not know who these men were, I'm sure most of us would look at them and be like, those are some old looking 10-year-olds. Or those are some young looking teens. Like, it's, uncanny valley is not the right word, but you can tell that the faces and the body, like the clothing doesn't match. There's something weird about this combination. And what it is that you have teenagers, late teenagers, mind you, 15 plus, dressing as kids who are barely 10 years old. Like, it's weird. You also have the NCT 127 Fire Truck music video where they are shooting water guns at a literal 6th grader. For why? Just for why? And again, it's leaning into that thing of like an older man and then younger people, younger women, well, a young girl, not even a woman, a young girl. And let's not forget, the creative mind behind all these things is Min Hee Jin. The last example I'm going to give you for the like infantilization of idols is a photo shoot. I can't remember, I didn't actually write down what year this was, but this was the W magazine photo shoot with EXO Kai, SHINee Taemin and FX Crystal. So it had to have been around the 2015, 2016 kind of time period if FX Crystal was in there. And again, she's got them styled to look as young as possible, but they are being very intimate with each other. And she herself, Min Hee Jin herself, said that the inspiration for this photo shoot was a movie called The Dreamers, where twin boys have an ancestral sexual relationship with a third student. Once again, why are you getting your inspiration from movies that showcase children, actual children, minors, in inappropriate sexual? Now we've got incest as well. Like, what? Please explain to me what in your brain made you see that and go, that would be great for a photo shoot. I want a photo shoot with my favorite little kitties that I can, and bearing in mind the people she's picked as well, EXO Kai, SHINee Taemin, and FX Crystal. These are literally like the most popular members of these groups. They are liked partially for their looks. She knows what she's doing. She knows the imagery that she's making. She's picking, and we're gonna get there, but it's the same way she said like, oh, I thought Minji was so cute and none of the other trainees were as pretty as she was. It's like, why are you so obsessed with the looks of children or making people look like children? Why is it never, let's highlight them being in their high teen years? Why is it not, let's highlight them reaching maturity, coming of age, growing up? Why is it always, let's recapture their youth, but then also take advantage of the fact that because they're legally adult or nearly adults, we can sexualize them a bit? When even that sexualization, you can't even argue that it's marketing because it doesn't appeal to the audience. The audience is younger than these idols. So actually making them look older would actually be more appealing if you want to go down that road. There's some moral questions there as well, but that's what we're talking about today. So yes, as you can see, Min Hee Jin has a very long history. Mind you, all the examples I gave you, minus the last one, because I don't know the date, were between 2011 to 2017. So those are not a long time ago, and that is a long period of time, mind you. That's a 6-year span within the last 10 years, basically. So none of that stuff is new. And mind you, the last example with the date was 2017. She came to Hybe/Big Hit in 2019. So who knows what more she could have done in that time had she actually been working directly with idols. The other thing we're going to talk about was inappropriate lyrics. And this is less common because Min Hee Jin, again, is not a music producer. Many people forget this. Even her Wikipedia says she's a music producer. She doesn't write music. But she does have a say in what producers they work with, what composers they work with, what lyrics they go with, and so on and so forth. So she's aware of what she's picking when she's making these decisions because she is the final decision, right? Well, Red Velvet released a song called Ice Cream Cake in 2015, and I'm just going to read you some of the very questionable lyrics, and I'm going to do them as monotone as possible because, yeah. I'm wearing my pretty white dress. Please give me that sweet taste. The ice cream that's on my mouth makes your heart pound. I scream, you scream. Give me that ice cream. Yeah, it's not even poetic, is it? Members are ranging from 16 to 24 years old at this point. And again, this is the thing of like, well, if they're adults, they can do this. They can do these kind of sexual things if they want to. We've got minors in this group. Secondly, yes, they could do that if they want to, but these are not the choices that idols are making. These are not lyrics they are writing themselves. These are lyrics they are being given to sing. So they are not making those decisions for themselves. They're not deciding that I want to be sexualized or I want to sing this very sexual thing. They are being told, do this. And that's it. Okay, so remember the context. Similarly, of course, there's the very famous example of NewJeans song Cookie from their debut days. This was in 2022. The members were 14 to 18 years old. Remember, I told you these are their ages at the end of the year. So it's very likely that even their oldest member was 17 at the time the song actually came out. The lyrics go as such. You know that it ain't for free. The cookie I made, it's so soft. So you keep on recalling it. It's hidden, but you want to see it more. If you want it, you can get it. Take it, don't break it. I want to see you taste it. You know, I know within the people watching this video, there's at least 1 or 2 people who argued back in the day that this song was not sexual. In context, firstly, I don't know how you argued that at the time. But now, with all the evidence that I've presented to you in this video, care to explain for the class? Because I would love to hear, again, I would love to hear somebody try and justify all of this mess. I'm not going to go into all the examples of NewJeans and how she's sexualized them because I'm sure at this point you guys know very well. But if you would like to see a list of those, I've linked a very informative Reddit post from K-Pop Uncensored subreddit where you can see all the examples with references. It's a very detailed comment, shall we say. But yes, we already know that she's done the same thing. She's constantly trying to make the members look younger, and at least this time she can argue that it's part of the group concept because their whole thing is nostalgia and youth, right? So of course they need to look young. But again, why then do you have them sitting on beds in suggestive poses and just anyway, yeah, we're not getting into the NewJeans side of stuff today. This isn't about them for once. I really want to say, if you've enjoyed this video so far, leave a like, but I don't think that's really the right statement to make. If this video has been informative to you, then please leave a like. And subscribe for usually more fun content than this. Anyway, I just want to wrap up with some final observations and my personal thoughts. So we as a community, especially the international K-pop community, but honestly the Korean K-pop community as well, are now very much discussing the appropriateness or lack thereof for young idols or young idol trainees being firstly introduced to the industry so young, like forced out of school, out of middle school, sometimes elementary school, to start training for what could in most cases actually be a waste of time because they never even get to debut, or idols debuting at 13, 14, 15, 16 at these super young ages where they are still like learning their self-identity and then also having to play a persona for the fans, for the camera, and often put into situations where they are being sexualized, wearing very revealing clothing or being subjected to sexualization by their fans, right? And I think we've all come to somewhat of a consensus that this is not appropriate, it needs to change, and we're now in the process of figuring out, okay, what is the lowest age? Is it 16? Is it 18? Do we only want adult idols? Like, what is the decision to be made? And that's where discourse is now. And I think also there is discourse surrounding treating them like children, not so much making them look like children, but I do think this is now a good point to talk about that. I know some people already don't really like seeing adult male idols wear school uniforms, or even female idols as well, although I think for a lot of us we're kind of desensitized to that now because we see it more as a concept rather than an indication of age. But I think with Min Hee Jin's examples and what I've explained today, I think there is still a lot to be spoken about in regards to intentionally trying to make adult idols look as young as possible, but then still taking advantage of their age as an excuse to sexualize them. And then there's also the conversation of like, is it even okay to sexualize anybody at any point? But yeah, there's a lot to be discussed here. But regardless, Min Hee Jin is guilty of all of the above, and that's the important thing here. And on top of that, we already know how she feels about using her own sexuality to her advantage in her career, and how she feels about women who are not willing to do the same things that she is. Which I personally think, like, some people will argue like, well, that's what feminism is, right? Freedom to use our body how we want, when we want, where we want, blah, 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 blah. But we have to consider the person we're talking about in the environment they were brought up in. Min Hee Jin was born in 1979. She's a Gen X. Not even a millennial, a Gen X, okay? By a year or two, but anyway. She grew up in post-war Korea. She lived through martial law and dictatorship before the democratization of South Korea. She's grown up in this super conservative and still very right-wing society her whole life. Even if you can argue that some of the things that she says or does, or the way she presents herself, the way she carries herself, is in line with kind of more, liberal is not even the right word, progressive thinking or Western thinking, whatever you want to say. The reality is, for the environment she grew up in, her mindset and her beliefs and the way she carries herself should be all the more shocking, because there is no part of Korean culture that would say, oh, that's completely fine. You can't argue that Min Hee Jin is just a like creative genius who is suffering from her environment. And I say that as someone who has said that, minus the examples I've given today, obviously, I do understand that Min Hee Jin is renowned in this industry for a reason. She does have a talent for certain things with her creative direction. Not all of them, not all the things she creatively directs are good, but there are things that she does well that appeal to the audience. These just aren't those examples, because mind you, even at that time, these examples were being criticized by fans at the time. Like, we could feel something was wrong. And mind you, I was like, what, 15, 16, 17, 18 at that time. So it was wrong then. It's even more gross now as a grown adult looking at this. I'm like, ugh, like, seriously, my skin is crawling. But this is the kind of person she is. And that's the whole point of making this video. I want you to keep in mind the things that I've told you when you then go and look at the NewJeans case. Look at how they talk about their relationship with her. Look at how she talks about her relationship with them. Look at the closeness between a CEO and these idols and their families. And I guess the question of the day is, if you were a parent, would you feel comfortable leaving your child with Min Hee Jin for any period of time? Anyway, if you would like to catch up with the rest of the NewJeans saga, you can do so by checking out the Adorgate playlist. Augustus is asleep at the moment, so I will take some video and put it on screen for you guys as a palate cleanser, because I know this video was disgusting. I know you guys asked for a long time. I hope it was worth it. I hope you learned something. I hope you understand where the rest of us are coming from now if you're a fairly new K-pop fan and you didn't know about Min Hee Jin's past. But yeah, this is why I say nothing that's happening now is surprising. Anyway, I hope you guys found this video helpful. The correct way to phrase it. And I hope it informed those of you who didn't know about her past so well. And I'm gonna wrap it up here because I would like to talk about something a little less creepy next time. Thank you. I'd appreciate if you dropped a like or shared this video in your communities or something. Make it worth my while. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyway, this has been Han from the Haniverse. Thanks for stopping by.